Well, welcome everyone to the April 12th Oshkosh Advisory Park Board meeting. Please make sure that your computers and what you're using are muted when you're not speaking. I don't believe we have anyone here from any citizen statements. If anyone would show up, let me know.
I do see Joe Amy.
Okay.
I do see Joe Stevenson, but Joe, are you here for the chapter 30 discussion, or do you have some general comments on anything not on the agenda?
I'm just listening right now.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
All right. So meeting's called to order. Stacy, you want to do roll call?
All right, Bartelt.
Here.
Davis.
Here.
Durth.
Here.
Royal.
Here.
Hudak.
Here.
Martin.
Here.
Metz.
Here.
Millet.
Here.
And Palmieri.
Here.
All right. Thank you.
Can I just say it's awesome to see the full board here again? I think we've had really good attendance the last couple of months, and I'm happy to see that.
All right, moving on to approval of the March 8th minutes. Are there any changes or questions that need to be discussed?
Nope. Move to approve.
We have a motion for approval. Okay. I'm sorry, who moved to approve?
Mayor Palmieri.
Thank you. All right, so I'll vote on that. Bartelt.
Oh, we need a second real quick, please.
I said second.
All right, thanks,
Devin
Becky.
did second. I heard her. Yeah. Oh, Becky seconded. Sorry, I was getting you guys confused. All right, so vote to approve the minutes from the March 8th meeting. Bartelt.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Earth.
Aye.
Groyle.
Aye.
Hudak.
Aye.
Martin. Metz.
Aye. Aye.
Millet.
Aye.
And Palmieri.
Aye.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody.
Right, and we don't have any citizen statements or public comments on the agenda, correct? Okay. All right, then let's move on to old business, the draft design of the Lakeshore Park Four Seasons building.
I will kick this off and then I'm going to turn it over to Lee. But just let you know where we are since the last meeting. We did take the decision or the proposal to the Common Council for the design team to continue working on an assembly space of 125 capacity and a building of 150. And with the approval of our amendment to our agreement with Smith Group, the Common Council supported that as well. So that's the direction that we have been moving forward. And Lee is here, and in your packets, you should have received the current site plan as well as the current floor plan of the building. We did send these all hard copy in the mail in addition to electronic, and I'm hoping that people are getting it in the mail. I see a few of you saying yes, and they're going out on the same day, so that's interesting. So anyways, if you didn't receive it by now, you should see it in the next couple of days. So I'm going to turn it over to Lee. And Lee, I know there were a couple items the last time you were here that the board wanted to make sure were incorporated, and you could touch on those.
Ray,
Sure.
I do want to jump in real quick though, because there were certain board members that had said they did not want to get their packets mailed to them anymore. So for those board members, they did only get an emailed copy. So if you did request that of me, you did not receive a mailed copy as well as your emailed copy. Lori?
Yes, and so would that have been a separate email from the ones that were attached for this meeting? Because I did not see that.
So
And
you
I'm one,
are on you are on my list of people that only wants an email copy of the board
Correct.
packets. So then I did just send out the one email last Wednesday afternoon. Did you not receive that one either?
I'll do a search. Maybe
Okay.
that's what I was asking, if it was separate from this tonight's agenda and attachments. So I might have missed it.
Okay. Deb, you had a question?
Stacey, I just wanted to say, maybe I'm also email only, but I'm unable to read these, any of the plans or maps that come. So if I am on email only, please change that. I'm gonna need them in the mail because it's unreadable. You make them larger and it's just larger blur. Thank
Deb.
you. Thanks.
I'll make that change.
Would you guys like me to share my screen, or would you prefer to?
I'm gonna have you
look at-
share, Lee.
Okay.
I will give you access.
Okay, can you guys see that?
Yes.
Is there a way of making it a little bigger?
I can. The only thing I can do is zoom in like this, but then you start to lose a little bit of. Then it starts to crop off a little bit.
Okay.
This is probably about the biggest I can make it
Okay.
without losing anything. All right, so just to give you an overview of where we're currently at. So as of last Friday, we completed what we refer to as our design development phase of the design process. There's three primary design phases. Schematic design is the first, design development is the second, construction documents is the third. And then as it goes into construction, there's a construction administration phase as well. What that essentially means is because we're wrapping up design development, we're essentially more or less 60% of the way through our design process right now. And since the last time we met, we are continuing to meet with Ray and various park staff to make sure that everybody that needs to be involved in the design of the project from a city and parks standpoint has been. So what you're seeing now is the latest rendering of our site design. We're still incorporating around an 80 car parking lot. We've still got the large turnaround space here. Now, I'm not sure the last, what the last version of the design you guys have seen. I know previously we had shared this in one of the previous meetings I was involved in with you guys. And you can start to see, how the plan has progressed from this point. So we no longer have the turnaround here. We've simplified how this works, and I want you to also kind of focus in on this portion of the plan and how we're starting to tie, the connections into the existing lakefront path, and how we're trying to integrate, the new design and really nicely integrate the new portion of our site design with what will be there with the future connection for the lakeshore path. We still have our primary stairs that lead up to this outdoor terrace located here. We still have this sloped walkway here, which would be your primary access after you park your car. You can see that both of those were incorporated into the earlier phase of design as well. One of the big changes that you'll notice as well, this lower plaza here, which will also house our a future splash pad. this was never intended to be a part of this project, but we were incorporating it into the project as just for planning purposes. So you'll see that removed from the plan right now as well. You see an upper open air terrace. So this is about 5 feet above grade or 5 feet above your parking lot. You've got a deck that wraps around on 3 sides of the building here. And I'll show that in a little more detail. So this is our latest floor plan. And a couple of I think the last time we met, a couple of the items that came up were wanting to revise what were dedicated gender specific outdoor restrooms. So we previously had a men's and a women's restroom. The topic was brought up in our last meeting that these should be revised to be either called a family restroom or unisex, which they are now. So these are intended to be single user restrooms, but are gender neutral. The restrooms on the interior of the building will still remain dedicated for men's and women's. I think one of the other topics that came up was providing better access to the food prep and warming kitchen off of the assembly room. Previously, I believe that this door was located a little bit further down the corridor as it is now, and we also didn't incorporate a pass-through window earlier in the design. This is a pass-through window now, and what you see is a small countertop to place food on as needed. And we've also moved the door closer to the restroom. You notice that it's not directly off the assembly room. If that's a desire, that's something that we can discuss. But if one reason why it's not directly off of the assembly room right now, what you're seeing here is a two-way fireplace. So it's got glass on the exterior side and it's got glass on the interior side. If we would need to move this wall down further towards the deck area in order to move this door really where this pass-through window is here. And as you start to do that, this space really becomes a lot more cramped. So for the seating that would be around here on the interior, for the seating that would be around here on the exterior, we're trying to maintain a little bit of breathing room here. So we thought that the kind of the middle ground is to locate this door where it is right now. Other than that, you can see what this kind of speckled hatch pattern. This is all intended to be concrete, and the kind of grayer area that you see out here is intended to be composite decking material for the deck itself. We still have the operable curtain wall openings in the facade, so these will open up to be 12-foot wide openings to kind of blur that line between interior and exterior that we've been discussing throughout the design process. But other than that, I think it's a lot of this should be relatively the same, but I think a couple of the things I just mentioned were to address, just acknowledging that we heard the comments before and that we were working to address the comments in the current design. So with that, yep, I see a hand. I don't know if this is the process, if we're opening for questions now. I'll hand it back to Ray for a second and then we can just kind of go from there.
Yeah, if you're completedly, we can see if there's questions, and I see Deb has her hand up, so.
Yep.
I don't know. I really truly don't know the answer to this, but since we doubled the capacity of people to be in there, the restrooms are still the same. Is that to code or standard for buildings if we were at capacity in that room? And
so the previous design accommodated a 100-person assembly room. I believe it was a 125-person total building occupancy. The new design increases that occupant load by 25 people. There's a calculation to determine the minimum required plumbing fixtures in a building. And with that 25-person increase, we did not need to increase the fixture count of either the interior restrooms or the exterior restrooms. So we were able to maintain those as they were designed and as they were previously presented to you, but we were able to increase the capacity of the building by increasing the total square footage, essentially.
Thank you.
Yep.
Lee, I
Yeah,
was
Anthony?
wondering if you could just tell me what I appreciate you doing the gender neutral bathrooms on the exterior. Can you explain what would be the pros or cons of making that facility wide? And because it strikes me as kind of odd to have gender dedicated on the inside and gender neutral on the exterior. What's the intent, and why not go gender neutral the whole way?
Sure.
Yeah.
So, and this kind of ties back to the minimum plumbing count, the minimum plumbing fixture count that I just mentioned. Gender neutral restrooms. So as you can see here, you do have 2 fixtures per each one of these rooms. So you have a urinal and a water closet for each one of these gender neutral rooms. Per the plumbing calcs, these can only be counted as a single fixture. In gender neutral restrooms, these can only be counted. So even though there's 2 fixtures, we can only count them as 1. In gender specific restrooms, where there's 2 water closets shown in the women's room, and there's a urinal and a water closet in the men's room, these count for individual. So there's 2 fixtures in women's, there's 2 fixtures in men's. So we have a total plumbing count of 1, 2, 4, 6, which meets our minimum required plumbing. If we treated these restrooms as gender neutral, then we would lose a plumbing fixture in each one of these, which would mean that we would need to come up with a different approach, probably add additional fixtures and make them gender neutral but multi-user, and that opens a whole nother door of how does this actually function in terms of an event. If this assembly room is rented for a birthday party, if both of these are gender neutral but they're multi-user, there's a question of how they function in terms of if men and women are trying to access the same restroom at the same time. So we decided to keep it with gender neutral for the exterior, gender neutral single user for the exterior, gender specific multi-user for the interior. Okay. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay. Deb?
So that leads me to the question. So if I'm not, but if I were a young father and I had 1 or 2 young girls with me, I would need to go, if I wanted to take them to the restroom, I would need to go outside to one of the gender neutral restrooms, or they would just be, or they could, the guy could lock the door. I mean, with the women's, it's not that big of a deal because there's stalls, and so you can have a boy in there, and it's no deal. So would they just lock the men's room then and use it for their family and then unlock it so other people could come in? I'm sorry.
So I mean, I can speak a little bit to personal experience on that one.
Yeah.
So I have a 5-year-old daughter, and I would have no problem bringing her into a dedicated men's restroom to use the facility if she needed. Like if it was just me and I just had her, and we rented the assembly room for her birthday, I would have no issue at all taking her into the men's room. That's me personally. That's not everybody, but I wouldn't feel like I would need to exit the building to use one of these family restrooms. Each one of these restrooms also have baby changing stations as well. So we've tried to make these as user friendly or equal as possible, but also understanding that this is a public park facility and that you'll have, you know, they'll be used in different ways, both on interior and exterior, if that makes sense. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's a little bit of my own kind of personal take on this.
Yes, thank you very much.
Sure. Yeah, Lori?
I don't know. I think everybody pulls their pants down the same way, but besides that, I have a question about the fireplace and the intent of the building going back. And I don't know if this was something that got stuck in my head and I'm incorrect, but weren't we calling this like a Four Seasons warming shelter? And if so, would one fireplace, I'm just kind of looking at that fireplace, and I know it's two-way, so it can work for outdoors on the deck and indoors in the assembly room, but I guess it just seems rather limited from the warming scope. I mean, did I get that wrong?
So, I mean, the building will be heated. I mean, I think you understand that. It really depends on how much emphasis we want to put on the fireplace. As of right now, the way that it has been designed, it can seat, let's say, 6 to 8 people on either side of it. So 6 to 8 people outside, 6 to 8 people inside. The fireplace has not been the primary driver of the design of the building. And if it did need to increase in size, it would mean that we would need to either look at potentially relocating it or placing it in a more prominent location for people to gather around, because where it's located right now, if we want to see more people around it, you start to intrude in circulation paths, you know, to get to the warming kitchen, potentially circulation paths to exit the building. Same thing on the outside. But the fireplace and seating around the fireplace has been a consideration, but has not been the primary driver of the building in general.
I guess I'll jump in that the fireplace, I think all along has been intended to add that atmosphere and that ambiance to the building, both to the inside and outside. So we were not looking at it as maybe that warming area, although it will have some obviously heat coming off, but it's definitely not going to be something we're going to be used for heating the room or anything.
Right, yeah. So if the assembly room is not open to the public when it's not rented, then that limits it to just a few folks on the outside, but then it may not be running. And I think we talked about maybe a little discussion, maybe this comes later, about the potential for an outdoor fire pit or fireplace or something. I don't really remember exactly, but I guess I was just trying to understand if that was, you know, part of the, I guess, primary purpose is the attraction in winter to the warming hut, so to speak, for folks who are snowshoeing cross country or ice fishing or coming off the lake or whatever. I just wanted to make sure I didn't get that in my head incorrectly.
And Lee, correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys were looking into controls so that if people are out on the deck and they would like to turn that fireplace on, there's a timer and a way to do that. Is that correct? Or is it
Yep.
strictly in? Okay.
No, yeah, no, that's correct. And Lori, to your other point, there has been discussion in the past of incorporating some kind of like a standalone above grade fire pit potentially into this plaza area out here as well. Now that could be something that it could be permanent, but it could also be temporarily fastened to the concrete plaza itself, and then removed during the warmer months. So that's a way that you can incorporate that as well. You know, there could be a fire pit out here with people sitting around it as well. So it wouldn't necessarily just be this one. There are other options that don't necessarily need to be incorporated into the actual design of the building. It could be a standalone product.
Thanks for clarifying.
Sure.
And I'm unable to see the whole grid of everybody, so I guess if you have any questions, feel free to jump in, or if you got comments, either way.
Ray, this is Tanisha.
Yes.
I'm actually curious as to seeing, I'm asking about handicap accessibility, like door buttons or entrances. Are these the doors to the restrooms and to the building going to include the push button accessible for handicapped people? Push the button to be able to get in and out of the restrooms or get in and out of the building itself?
We would incorporate automatic openers onto the primary, the main entry doors, which you see down here in the vestibule. We have not had the discussion about incorporating automatic openers onto into the outdoor restroom doors. That's not something that I've done typically on a lot of projects. It doesn't mean that that's not the right thing to do or that we couldn't do it for this project, but it's as of right now, they are not designed to be automatic opening. I will say that these doors in particular, they do maintain required ADA clearances, both on the push and the pull side, for handicap accessibility, but they do not incorporate automatic openers at this time.
Okay, and then the other question was at a previous meeting, it was mentioned about possibly incorporating an adult changing station in the restrooms and not just a baby changing station for someone like myself that is disabled and would probably use the facilities and may be at an event or something for a long period of time and may need some assistance. Is that something that is also a possibility to incorporate in family restroom or one of women's restroom or any of the restrooms for that matter?
I mean, I'm not going to say no. It's not an option. I apologize if I don't remember. I don't remember that coming up in a previous meeting that I was a part of. It may just be me not remembering. So if that's the case, I apologize. It's not to say that we couldn't incorporate something like that. I would need to look at space requirements and clearance requirements for something like that and ensure that one, would it be able to be incorporated into the restrooms as they're currently designed? And if not, what would that mean for the general design and layout that we're currently showing on the screen right now?
And I'm sorry, Tanisha, this is Lori. I'm not familiar with the adult changing stations, but I'm thinking back to when I used to assist my mom in her wheelchair. Can you like maybe refresh our memory of like what is an adult changing or how is an adult changing station different from a baby changing station?
It's just a larger platform. It's similar to a baby changing station. It's just a larger thing that comes out that's more stronger and stable to fit an
Okay.
adult, such as like myself or someone else who's able to get out of a wheelchair on their own to use a typical disabled toilet. It's just for in case they need help, continence issues, and they're at an event and they're there for 2, 3, 4 hours, whatever the case may be, then they don't have to go all the way home and, because they
Sure.
don't have this inconvenience as a child would to get changed. So that's why.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Lee, I wanted to bring you back to the site plan just a little bit, and if you can talk about the feature of the roof drain that we are looking to incorporate so that the board is aware.
Sure. Wish I had a better plan to convey it. So what I go off script a little bit here. The way that the roof is currently designed, it's basically a series of 3 triangular planes, all of which slope to this line right here. And the idea is that we would incorporate an integral box gutter along this line that would collect all the rainwater off of the roof, direct it down to the low point of the roof, which is this corner right here. And there would be an open downspout that collects that water and directs it down to what we're envisioning will be an open rain garden. And I'll go back to the plan in a second. So this angle here will likely end up needing to be straight down to accommodate that downspout. But the idea would be that, and let me see if I can find a better, see if I can find a better drawing for you guys.
Sorry, I could have gave you a heads up on this, but
No,
it
you're
just came
fine.
to me.
You're fine. All right, so this is the low point. This is that low point corner of the roof that I just described. What we're talking about doing is, instead of stormwater drainage becomes so much of an afterthought in so many projects and so many buildings. You know, the gutters and the downspouts are just kind of tacked on at the end, and they're either drained directly to on grade, or they're piped directly underground and they connect in with the stormwater sewer system. What we're considering doing for this project, and we're starting to incorporate into the design, is really starting to celebrate that stormwater drainage. There's a number of stormwater drainage basins that are incorporated around the site, but adjacent to the upper terrace here specifically, what we're talking about doing is opening the concrete up here and creating essentially a little rain garden that there's a little bridge right here. So it's concrete. This will be open grate steel bridge we're talking about right now, kind of that diamond pattern. So you can see through it. So concrete, this kind of diamond plate, open to below bridge. And the idea is that the water would drain off the building, down this downspout, collect in this little rain garden under the bridge, and then naturally drain with gravity down the 5-foot tall berm, and then into the existing water feature or lagoon area that's currently on the site here. So we're trying to celebrate. This is kind of part of our sustainability. One of our sustainability strategies is really taking into account, looking at some of the environmental factors and really starting to celebrate that stormwater collection and drainage. And I think there may be a couple of, yeah, so here you can see in a little bit more detail, this is the bridge, so this would all be open to below. So this is looking at the bridge in plan. And then you'd have these kind of larger stones that would be designed and incorporated down that earthen berm. And then, like I said, ultimately will drain to the lagoon that's on the site. Does that help?
Thanks.
Yeah,
I
sure.
I just wanted to let the board know about that one kind of feature, I guess.
Yeah.
I have this is Jamie. I have a quick question going back to the floor plan. So there's one door to enter, and then it looks like there's a little like separate entrance hall, and then you're actually into the main assembly area. Is that first door always from the outside to the inside always going to be locked? Or, for example, during the winter, would people be able to use that first little small room to warm up during the winter?
Ray, I'm going to defer that one to you from a functionality standpoint or an operations standpoint.
Yeah, and programmatically, Jamie, that's something we'll have to look at. We need to keep an eye. We see a lot of vandalism, so we are incorporating or planning for camera systems here just because of the amount of vandalism. So I'm not going to say no, but I'm not going to say yes, because if people can get in there and they're out of view, if the building's not in use, there's a tendency for things to happen that shouldn't be happening. So I can't give you yes or no because I really haven't thought about that question yet.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. I'm going to do a last call for anything for Lee, or else we are going to let Lee leave and we're going to continue to go down the direction of final design.
Anthony had a question.
I have one more question. Just it was back to the fireplace thing. I was curious, with that location being there on the assembly room, and then with the other thing, kind of around the corner from that wall, is the intent, and maybe this is for Ray more, is the intent of that to more making it usable for when that building is occupied? I remember at one time we talked about doing something more in the front of the building, like as part of that space, so that it can maybe was more visible and usable or and used by people. And so like kind of towards that like horseshoe area towards the front of that corner. That's kind of like the front of the building as people approach. Is that something, or what's the intent behind that location versus moving that out? And functionality wise, and just it seems like it would kind of be wasted there, except for when it's being used. So if you could explain that more, that'd be helpful.
You're talking the fireplace location again, Tony?
Yeah. Yep.
I think, as Lee said before, there's a possibility of something going out into the terrace area yet.
Right.
So
we just
again,
don't see that on there yet. Okay.
Correct. Yes. So there's a possibility there'll be something going there. And this was again intended more for not only inside the assembly room, but for events or for people that might be out just on the deck area sitting outside. And again, we can design it so that even if you're not renting the building and it's not used, that it could be used, turned on from the outside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess I was when Lee was saying that, I was kind of thinking if there wasn't one up front, the one on the people wouldn't know that one was there. Essentially, was kind of my line of thinking. So anyway, that's okay. Thank you.
Hey, I just had one question for Lee. Looking at the past plans for the patio and the newest plans with the water garden, it changes kind of the roof line of the whole thing. Are we losing some shading out on that patio in the new plan with the water garden?
No, I don't think we're losing any shading at all. In fact, I think we probably have more than the last time that we met.
And I think, I'm sorry, Lee, I think
no,
you guys added on to that patio area as well, correct?
We did. Yeah.
So it's actually gotten bigger.
Yeah,
So
it's actually gotten.
Go ahead.
The patio itself has actually gotten bigger than compared to the last time we met. It is partially covered, as is the deck. The deck is also not fully covered. We're trying to be we didn't necessarily feel that everything needed to be covered, everything needed to be sheltered. We try to provide a varying level of roof overhangs and coverage throughout the project. So for somebody that would prefer to sit in the direct sun for hours on end, has that ability to. For someone that wants to get out of the sun completely, also has the ability to. But I mean, to answer your question, I don't think that we are losing any shading. If anything, we've got more shading around the extent of the building that we had previously.
Thank you. Yeah, that makes, if you increase the size of the patio, then that explains why the amount of shading would be the same. You're just increasing more of the sunlight part of it. So thanks.
Yep, you're welcome. Yep, Lori.
Yeah, just one last question here. So I can't quite see the print on here. Remind me, is there like any kind of utility storage in the building? Oh, there it is. Okay, so like if Ray, and maybe this is too detailed, but if there are chairs and tables that are going to be, I don't know, rented or used in the assembly room, is that storage area intended to be the place where all that would go? Or would they be kind of stacked in a corner of the assembly room? What's the thought there?
That's our intent, is when the tables and chairs wouldn't be used, that the majority would go into that, again, that back.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.
What you're seeing on the plan here are essentially, these are 4 chair carts, so 4 stackable, where you would stack the chairs on it, and a single table cart. So the idea is that we're showing, disregard this circle, this will be moved over here, and the table cart will be moved over here to better consolidate this space. But the idea is that these hatches, these rectangular hatches here for tables and chairs, it's enough space to accommodate this storage for the tables and chairs that would be out in the assembly room. So in one of the previous plans, I showed you a furniture plan. This plan. So the storage that you saw in the previous plan. So all of these tables and chairs here would be able to be stored. There's enough space to accommodate that, basically. Yeah, Scott, do you have a question?
Yeah, I don't mean to beat up the fireplace issue, but I, for one, do like the placement of that fireplace. I think there are good safety measures in place, and that it probably would only be utilized if there is an event in the assembly room. I'm not a big fan of an outdoor one in that other area out there. I just, for irresponsible use, I just think there's too many safety issues, and I certainly wouldn't be a fan of a wood burning fireplace out there. Just my thought.
And I would recommend against a wood fireplace anywhere on this property, or at least directly around the building. You're muted, Ray, if you're talking.
I did turn it off. I said, okay, I think I don't see any more hands. So thank you, Lee, for showing up and explaining where we're at in the process.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you, everybody, for your questions and your comments.
Thank you. It's looking good.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Looks
Enjoy the
great.
rest of your meeting.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. All right. And with that, we can move on to new business. Ray, kick us off.
Yes. So this is what I'm going to call Chapter 30 101 for everybody on the Parks Board. And I'll explain why it's on the agenda first, and then we'll get into it a little bit. But hopefully in your packet, you had a chance to read the couple of pages that we sent from Chapter 30, which is our subdivision code of the municipal code. Essentially, what is in the subdivision code for parks, and this is pretty standard for any community, is when you have a land division, like a new subdivision coming in, and I'll give you an example of a recent one. Out 9th Avenue to the west, there was discussion of a potential development of a parcel of land with approximately 65 single-family residential units. Part of the code states, because we know that the addition of residents and homes, that we need additional parkland. And the couple maps that I sent you, I'll get into, but when we go through the comprehensive plan document and updating that, we use those two maps very heavily, I would say. One shows you each park in the city and basically the service area around that park, basically what the national standards say for whether it's a quarter mile up to a half mile radius for a neighborhood park or whatever I put in my memo. I'm not going off my memo, but just to give you an idea, and a community park services a larger area of the city. So really when what we look at, once we see the existing parks we have and there's deficiencies throughout the city where there's areas not served by a park, that's when we start to look at, all right, if a developer comes in a certain area, is a park required here? And based on chapter 30, it tells you how much space or how much land is required per residential unit to be dedicated. So what we basically do is work with our planning staff and the developer saying, all right, as you're looking to develop this property, it is in an area that we've identified that is necessary to have a park. So we're going to request X acres of parkland. And I think, for example, the one that had about 65 residential units came out to be about 1.6 acres, I believe, based on the calculations. So what we do is think about where that park should go in that subdivision, basically. And we try to make sense of it because this example out on the west, there's also adjacent properties that we know that will be developed in the future. So what we try to do is look for a piece of property for the park that we can maybe expand on as those other adjacent properties develop. So we're getting more park acreage from those other developments as well to make this park more of a larger size neighborhood park. So just to give you conceptually how it works. So that's a requirement according to this chapter 30. The other option, and I say this is news to a lot of you because we haven't had development going on in the city for various reasons. So we haven't had to have properties coming to the Parks Board. What we would normally do, Plan Commission would let us know, hey, this developer would like to develop this property. Part of the plan states that the area requires parkland dedication. What I would do is make my recommendation to this board, because we do have an option if we don't feel the city should accept parkland, that we can take fees in lieu of parkland dedication from the developer. So essentially, instead of dedicating the 1.6 acres, the developer is responsible for paying, or the homeowner is responsible for paying a fee in lieu of land dedication. And that's outlined in the information that I sent you. It's actually on page 9. Start on 8. Actually starts on page 8 and goes into page 9. So again, once we would get to that point, I'd bring a recommendation to you. We'd take a look at our maps of existing parks. We'd take a look at the map that states here are areas in the city that are deficient in parkland, that a proposed park should be added here. And then we make that recommendation from this board, and that gets passed on to the Plan Commission and Common Council as the developer moves through the process for that development. So kind of gives you an idea how future development, the city looks for ways to get future parkland from the developer or those future residents to help serve them. I'm just going to look through my notes. So if you want to hop to those maps, these maps are.
Hey, Ray.
Go ahead, Lori.
Rick,
Yes.
Can I just ask a quick question? So kind of going back to some of the multifamily developments that have come up in recent years, did the Parks Board do that for those developments such as the Rivers, the Anthem, the Annex, or any of those developments?
Not all multifamily is covered under our current ordinance, and we just had that discussion today with the planning staff, and this is something Alan Davis and I have brought up a number of times. If it's developed, if there's not a land division, let's say it comes in under plan development, there is not a requirement to dedicate parkland or to pay fees in lieu of. So not all multifamily or not all developments, unless it's a land division. So a lot of those, Lori, may not have been a land division. They might have come in as a planned development where currently we don't have the authority to get those fees. And that's something we talked about today and said, we need to look at ways that we can do that, because a lot of those multifamily developments are really the areas we need to have green space, whether it's provided by the city or by the developer. So it depends. So I need to put that caveat in there when it's, it states in here multifamily, but it's not, because again, there's not a land division that takes place.
So in the advent of recent years where many developments get PD'd, the planned development, which I think is kind of like a newer practice in recent years because of the conditional use permits that Plan Commission and the state has kind of moved away from. As we've seen more and more of those developments go into PD, it kind of fell through the cracks there. Is that what I'm kind of hearing? Or was it like intentional that we would only do that in subdivisions and now we're trying to correct?
It didn't fall through the cracks because it's not in the code, because it's not an actual land division. So if you look through chapter 30, the only way that we can request this is if it's an actual land division. So and again, we had a meeting today with the city manager and planning staff and others, and Alan Davis and I both said we need to get that corrected, because again, those are the types of place where we need to have additional green space and get some parkland. So.
And then just one kind of procedural question with that. Would that vote by this board then fall into quasi judicial? Or it's still under the administrative end?
It's a recommendation that we would make to the Plan Commission and the Common Council as the development is moving forward.
Okay.
They would look to us. Does this comply with your corp? And we would say yes, and that's where I would tell this board, my recommendation is X. So, okay. So if you take a look at the two maps, the first one we'll look at is the park service area map. And all of these documents and more are in our comprehensive outdoor recreation plan, and that's on the city website. I apologize. I was going to send a link when we sent out the packet, and I forgot to let Stacy know to do that, but we can send that out. It's a quick link right to our city website that has our comprehensive plan on. But these maps are in there. If you take a look at this park service area map, you can take a look, the different colors. There's a key at the lower left-hand corner. The salmon or pink is a neighborhood park. And again, the service area for that is about a half-mile radius. The lighter purple, I guess you would call it, is a community park with about a mile service radius. So if you start to look at areas of the city that aren't currently served by a park, that's where we then start to work on developing the next map, which is the proposed park acquisition map. So if you move to that one, and you'll see that we identify areas throughout the city where we are deficient in parkland. And a lot of those areas will be maybe on the outskirts, whether it's on the north, south, obviously not the east, but on the west side as development takes place and the city grows. But there are other areas, for example, in the downtown area and then the near north, I would say, where there's some deficiency for some neighborhood parks as well. So I hope this makes sense that, we move from one map to the other, and then these are part of our comp plan. So this is what we then identify and share with developers, saying, if you develop again in these areas, most likely we're going to require some parkland dedication. I was going to tell you the reason why we're having this briefing is we're going to be having a joint meeting between the Advisory Parks Board, the Plan Commission, and the Common Council. And right now we're thinking it's going to be in June. I know in my memo or on the agenda, I might have stated May, but because of the new council members with the election, as well as some vacancies that may or may not occur on this board, there may be some new members on these various boards and commissions. So we're going to wait until those members are seated and then have this joint meeting sometime in June. And the reason we're having a joint meeting is there may be, I don't want to say competing, but there's some different direction that the city, whether it's boards and commissions or departments, may be getting or hearing. On the park side, we need to obviously know we should be pushing for additional park space when it's called for in our plan. If we're doing that, we're taking away some lots from the developers, which then drives up the cost of the existing or the remaining homes because there's less homes to sell, less lots to sell, which ultimately could drive the price of development up, which then goes against some of the city strategic plans to develop affordable housing. So there's some, whether it's inconsistencies or battling theories and thoughts, we wanted to get all the boards and commissions in the same room to have that discussion because everybody, each board and commission and some elected officials and each of you might have different opinions and thoughts on some of that. So we wanted everybody to hear it at the same time. So that's the reason why I wanted to at least give you this initial information, let you have it in advance. If you've got more questions when you read through it, let me know. But it's going to be explained pretty thoroughly. We're going to have the planning staff will be probably taking the lead, having a PowerPoint presentation, do a lot of, again, explaining on the subdivision code and portions of it, which includes this.
Ray, so it sounds to me like what you're saying here, the land acquisition map out of the corp is really targeted towards new development, but this kind of ignores the historically deficient, more populous areas of the city. Is it your thought that that will come into the discussion as well in the joint workshop?
I would say anything is fair game because we're talking about, again, areas of the city that need parkland and how do we accomplish that? I'm not saying that, you know, the areas in the mid village, I'm going to call it again, the near north again, those are heavily, they're dense populated. There's houses. Is there a way, or are there properties that the city can look at, whether it's acquiring or their vacant property somewhere that we can combine to try to get a neighborhood park or something of that effect? So even though a lot of my discussion was focused on the outskirts and the future development, I don't think we can forget about those other areas. But it was more, that one was more pertinent as it was a recent, as you are aware, on the council agenda as far as a future or a annexation or attachment to the city. So that's why it was fresh. So no.
And I also noticed in the code that where it specifies 1,100 square feet per detached single family house or 900 square feet per attached multifamily unit, the alternative fee, if they don't do parkland dedication, is like $200 per lot on the detached and 165 per lot or per unit on the attached multifamily. It seems like a bit less to pay the fee depending upon the value of the land, I suppose. You know, that's like $10 a month, a little less than $10 a month. On the single family home.
And that's, we'll have, as part of the joint meeting, we're going to have information from East Central Wisconsin Region Planning Commission. They did survey municipalities throughout the region so that we can compare where we're at as far as the fees and land dedication go. So we'll have that information to share as well. So you'll have comparatives too.
Oh, good. Oh, good. And I'm sorry, I said that in a monthly breakdown, but I guess that's not accurate because it would be a one-time fee, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, it's $200 per residential lot payable at acceptance of the final plat. And then it's $200 when the building permit is taken out. So it's 200 and 200 or 165 and 165, I believe. I see Deb has her hand up.
I have a personal interest in this, but in the area around Witzel and Oakwood, there's, I believe Mercy Hospital sold a property and there's a bunch of multi-units going in just to the east of Oakwood. Well, that it's you. So I'm not sure. I've never heard about this before. So I just want to understand. So since those are going to be apartment buildings, there's not going to be a requirement that there be any parkland donated for that because they're not but I heard I read in the paper, I think 7 structures. But and there's so many apartments in this area already because I live in this area and there's no park and there's just tons and tons of apartments and lots of children here and we have nothing.
Mm-hmm. I can't speak to that one specifically. I can only speculate. I can only speculate that that may have come in under a planned development again, where it's not a subdivision of the land. So they would not have been required to dedicate parkland, which I feel is not correct. And I think other departments and staff feel the same way. And we need to get that figured out.
Thank you.
Yes. I know that's a lot of information and I don't know if I explained it well enough, but hopefully you see how the pieces go together. And the importance of when we do the corp update on taking a look at those maps and really taking a look at areas that are underserved.
And I'm gonna ask you to do some math for that joint meeting, to simplify it for folks. So if chapter 30 says 1,100 square feet per detached single family home, or 900 square feet per attached multifamily housing unit, does that equate to the national standards in terms of acres per 1,000 or 10,000 persons? I mean, I guess I'm just hoping that we can see that breakdown in that workshop.
Yeah, I'll take a look at it. And when we, without getting into a lot of details on the corp, there's a lot of discussion, and Lori might be familiar with this, but whether or not that national standard of 1,000 per 10,000 or the acreage per 10,000 or 1,000 people, whether or not that's the correct measurement, there's a lot of communities in NRPA are saying it's really based on your level of service. What does your community want? What can they support? So it's been changing from years, and I think we identified that in our corp. So although that number is out there, I think when we take a look at it, we take a look at both that, but as well as the level of service that I think the community wants. And that's what a lot of communities are starting to do. So there's different philosophies behind each one.
And then one other thing, I'm hoping, do you know what kind of time frame are we looking at having that joint workshop? And I've been trying to follow through other representatives the national or the federal Parks, Jobs, and Equity Act that would designate this significant amount of money under the Biden administration to go to cities to add more park space. So do we have like a first line notification on things that come down, not just from the state level, but from the feds on those kinds of issues?
Yeah, a lot of the times I'll see it, or through our state association, we'll get legislative updates through them as well. As far as the timing for this meeting and your question on that, I would, you should watch for an email, most likely from Diane Moran. She's going to start polling all the boards and commissions that'll be involved. As you can imagine, it's going to be quite a sizable group. So you'll probably be getting a poll from Diane just saying, give us some available dates, and most likely be an evening time. I'm guessing probably around 5 or 6. I think initially we're talking about a 90-minute meeting, and see how that goes. So watch for an email from Diane. What she'll do is begin narrowing down some availability. And then once we get to about the June 1st, when we have the new council seated, the new potential board members seated, then we'll take a look at the new members and find a date that works for most in June.
And then just a quick other question too. Do you expect that James Robbie or some of the public works folks, you know, from a stormwater perspective also, or sustainability, will be participating?
Yes, James, Justin from DPW Engineering were on our call, planning staff and our staff as well. So it's going to be a lot of information. You're going to hear some reiteration of some of the stuff I gave you tonight, but it's going to be even more because it's chapter 30 is a huge chapter, deals with a lot of items. And chapter 30 has been going under revisions for a number of years. And so the planning staff would like to keep it moving forward. And that's one of the reasons too that we're getting everybody together. So
It's only 800 pages in hard copy.
good bedtime reading. All right, hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. If you got questions, let me know, obviously. Amy, I'm done on that way. There's no action that we need to take.
All right. Well, you're up again for staff reports.
I'm going to keep it brief because A, we just talked about, and B, I wanted to just let you and the public know that we made the decision that the bathhouse at Menomonee Park, we cannot open. If you recall last year, we did not open it, and that was mainly due to COVID and all the everything that was transpiring at the time. What we've done is taken a look at the condition of the building, looked at not only because of COVID, but just for us to say we could safely and cleanly open it and try to keep it in a decent condition when it's not. We are not comfortable doing so. We currently don't have the funds to do a major remodel or a new building, so we're looking for alternatives for that. We will continue to do so. If you take a look at the Menomonee Park Master Plan, in that document, there is talk of a new bathhouse, beach house, expanding the beach. It's got a pretty big price tag to it. So at this point, we're gonna be providing some portable toilets at the facility, asking people to come swim ready and do what you can at this point because we are not comfortable opening the bathhouse. And what I'm going to suggest, if we don't have many items on the agenda, I'm going to suggest that for our May meeting, it might be a good option or a good idea to have this board tour the facility. I thought we could tour the bathhouse. We can get you down and see some of the other improvements that we've done at Menomonee Park, including the playground, the tennis courts, pickleball courts, the new things in the zoo, the new eagle exhibit, the new wolves. So I think we could make a nice evening tour out of it. And I know we've been trying to do a tour, you know, once a summer at least. So I think it's a good idea to get you inside that building and just let you take a look at it yourself. Any question? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I forgot to ask for questions. I was already moving you along.
Okay, go ahead. I'm good.
All right. Chad?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Just a few updates on here. Letter A regarding the Weiss Taven Circle Park play equipment and ball field projects. As you know, over the course of the winter, we've made some preliminary construction items to get ready for the demolition of the field and of the playground. If you've been out there of recent weeks, you'll see that we have the playground site excavated and stone base going in to get ready for the accessible walkways and the play structures. Did hear back from our playground contractor today that hopefully our components are scheduled for the third week of May to arrive. And our goal is to have the site prep for there so things can move safely and smoothly along with that process here coming through May. Let's hope that delivery and manufacturing dates don't get delayed by other unforeseen circumstances. So that'll be going well. Also, we'll be doing our construction meeting for the ball field project here within the next week to get our schedule of events together for the renovation of the field project. So West Haven Circle Park be going through a lot of things here and a lot of activity for construction there this season. South Park Tennis Court project, or South Park Tennis and Pickleball Court project, is slated to be on the council agenda tomorrow night for approval. Barring that everything goes well with approval, we've got a tentative pre-construction meeting scheduled for the 19th of April, and hoping everything get together on there for that to be redone here over the next few months. An interesting thing, and I'm going to ask Stacy to help chime in with this item regarding Memorial Bench Program. We have seen a great influx of community support from people that want to donate to the parks and with a Memorial Bench Program. I think to date, over the past month and a half to 2 months, I think we're up to 7 units right now. Stacy, correct me if I'm wrong, that have just come in.
I
Excuse me?
think that from the first of the year, we've had 9 total requests. If I'm 9 or 10 total requests since January 1 alone.
Super. Most of the sites that include down there is we have Menomonee Park, of course, South Park, Glatz Park, the zoo itself, and just a recent one for Red Arrow Park coming through for the disc golf area. So that's a very nice program. Encourage people, if they're looking to memorialize or tribute to a family member or friend, to look at our system out there in the park system, that we could apply a bench someplace for use. So that's a very astounding number for us going forward for this year. Just on some updates for the coming year. This year, we are scheduled to open all of our park restrooms on Friday, April 16th. That'll include everything across our entire system. Our first shelter rentals are scheduled for this coming Friday and Saturday. So that the season is hitting us, and that's a great thing. Let's hope that the weather stays dry enough here from here on out. People can get out and enjoy the parks. Our crews have done a very nice job of keeping things up with litter control and repairs and things of that nature. And looking forward to planning the numerous things between the Leech, the Pollock Community Water Park, the amusement zoo center or zoo area, all that stuff coming up here in the near future. So going to be an eventful year. Let's hope with everything with COVID lifting in time that we can get back people outdoors and enjoying the recreation places we have. So that's all I have for my report. And if you have any questions, be willing to take those.
So this is Devin. I have a quick thought. When you brought up the memorial benches, with the new parks and everything going around, and I know, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm just thinking like, obviously benches everywhere are great, but is there an opportunity, maybe if we need to be planting some new trees or landscaping or anything like that, do we have like memorial tree services? Like if people wanted to donate money to do something along that lines versus a bench, just trying to think of maybe ways we can save money but through landscaping, but people wanting to plant a tree or a flower bed or something in memorial for a loved one.
Yes. Well, currently we do have a memorial tree program. As far as extending that into a landscape nature or doing something of those things, I think there's some further details we could, but memorial tree program does gets used extensively.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Yeah, maybe just with that new location too, if like we wanted to do some more landscaping or anything like that, I think that would be kind of a fun way if someone wanted to do like a flower garden or something like that. Kind of a win-win on both ends.
Yeah. Not to be, a devil's advocate sometimes, and I've worked with a lot of different programs through the years too, with doing landscape beds or master gardeners and other things of that nature. And I think it's a matter of agreement that we set up to make sure that we don't take on something more that we can't handle in the long run.
Sure.
If it was to come back to the city for maintenance and concerns, if it's an adopt a plot type thing and we can keep things moving, which we have those services, we'll definitely entertain those and see how we can make those work. Most definitely.
Cool.
Great question, and it gives us a chance to say all the memorial bench program and tree program are on the city website. And with our new software upgrade that we did for our online programs and online services last week that Stacy did an awesome job on, there's a donate now button on the city on our webpage. There's brochures for both the tree and the bench program out there. So encourage you to take a look at those, and anybody in the public that is an interest, do so or give us a call.
And
Go ahead, Lori.
I think Deb had her hand up first.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Deb.
I have seen those benches around on walking paths too. They're just top notch. Really, really, really nice. And Devin, do you have an idea approximately when West Haven Park might be completed if things go as planned?
For West Haven wise, for the athletic field, I plan on keeping
Chad,
the athletic
keeping
the athletic field out of commission this year because we're going to be seeding that and have that.
No, I
back
mean
in
the playground. The playground.
Oh, the playground. I would hope that everything comes together here by early July, if everything goes well. So that would be probably a little bit distant, but I'm trying to keep a little more conservative on our end date in case something comes up with delivery schedules. So that would be our goal. Mm-hmm.
All you, Amy.
All right. Well, is there any other business? All right, then.
I'm so sorry. I do have one other business. I apologize. It was one of my people I know said to me they have a concern about dogs not on leash in Oshkosh parks. Didn't specify any particular park. I personally have not seen it myself, but I would imagine there's a leash law. So even if as an individual, if I were to see someone, can I say something to a citizen? You know, your dog's supposed to be on a leash, or what's appropriate if someone does see that?
Yep, we do allow dogs on hard surfaces, so the paths, the parking lots, and so forth. They're supposed to be on a leash 6 feet long, obviously picking up after their dogs. You can say something, just let them know that we do have an ordinance and it's supposed to be on trails. Or if you're uncomfortable with that, we do encourage people to call the non-emergency line at the police department. And if they're not too busy, they'll try to help out. But that's 236-5700. They help the best they can. So
thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, with that, our next meeting is scheduled for May 10th, and hopefully it'll be a field trip because I love getting out to our parks. And I'm going to make a motion for adjournment.
Second.
And was that you that seconded?
Yes, it was.
Okay. All right. So then we'll do roll call on that. Bartelt?
Aye.
Davis?
Aye.
Terrace?
Aye.
Royal?
Aye.
Hudak?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye.
Metz?
Aye.
Millet?
Aye.
And Palmieri?
Aye.
All right. Motion passed 9-0. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care.